Welcome on in to Same But Different. My mic might have just popped because I said welcome very, very loud. I am Brody. You're here with me and my brother Derek. We are here to review the movie Past Lives. Ooh. It's not a spooky movie at all, actually. Let's just hop right into it so we can keep this quick and concise. And Derek, why don't you tell us what you thought of A24's Past Lives? Ooh.
Again, not spooky, but it was unexpected. Up until now, A24 movies for me have just been either sci-fi, horror, or like some mixture of that into a drama or comedy, you know? It's never been straight drama. Even though this movie is definitely straight drama, they did have that little tiny element of mysticism, which I really appreciated about the whole like past lives sort of thing. The Inyan, they called it, right? Not necessarily that it was like implemented in the movie, but the fact that it was a belief and it could be possible was kind of cool. And I really, really appreciated that about this movie. This movie, I believe, is a love story, but it's not your conventional love story in the way that like boy meets girl. There's some hurdles they have to overcome. Maybe they have an argument and in the end they fall in love and they realize they're meant to be together and they live happily ever after. That's not this movie. This movie is very real, both in the way of the journey and how it's executed, and also in the conclusion and the way the characters just go their separate ways at the end. I feel like statistically in real life, this is what happens more often than not than your conventional love story. Right?
Okay.
But it is a love story because there is love between these two characters, and it's a love that is not meant to be, I guess. Their notion of past lives, not meant to be in this life, maybe it was in a past life, maybe it was in a future life, but in this one right now, it's not meant to be, even though they both have very strong feelings for each other. This movie is beautifully directed, and it's a directorial debut, which is super impressive. And the cinematography, not as far as like lighting and the shots and color, because that's all like muted and normal, because that's what this movie is a very normal representation of life. But the camera movements are so intentional, and the composition in the shots are really nice, and where they place the camera are really nice, and directing through the acting is really amazing too, albeit a little boring, and that's one of my negative parts. It's very real conversations between these two people, and the way they act it is so real. I feel like I was just listening in and watching in on a real life on the street conversation with people. A little bit of a film term for you folks out there. Dogma 95 is what they call it, where
What's that?
Lars Van Trier and some other guy, I forget, they kind of founded this idea of bringing filmmaking back to its roots and not so spectacular in its Hollywood form, and making it real about the story, about the characters, about real life conversations and real life stories. The only negative I have is the fact that it was quite boring.
No, it wasn't.
It was very boring, but I can't decipher whether or not that was intentional. I mean, it did work because it got across the idea that they were normal conversations, because that's what would happen in awkward, normal conversations when two people kind of really love each other, but they can't outwardly express it. There would be those awkward silences. In a film, it comes across as boring. However methodical it might be, it just comes across as boring and slow, which is unfortunate because that's just real life, and art imitates life. But really, do we want that in a movie? I don't know. I'm all confused about it. It didn't make me as sad as I thought it would. A lot of reviews that I saw about this movie said it would really, really like depress you and gut punch you and make you cry. It didn't really do that at all. It did leave me with a pit in my stomach for sure, because it's just really sad that these two people couldn't get together when they loved each other so much. And the fact that she never cries, and then she cried at the end after he left. There's just something so strong between them that they can't have. And that's really tragic and sad. So I'm going to give this movie 7.5 Skype sessions out of 10.
Wow.
Yeah. It's going to be a same but different episode. I know it.
This is going to be different but different.
Oh, no.
7.5.
It was a really beautiful movie. Like I said, there's only one negative thing I could find about it, and then it was boring.
I am baffled, befuddled, bewildered.
I'm really excited to hear what you have to say about it and why, presumably, you didn't like it. So
boring. Boring. This movie was so boring. Boring to the point of I wanted it to be over. And as soon as it was over, it hasn't crossed my mind once. I was bored out of my mind during this movie.
No.
I just kept waiting for something to happen. Spoiler alert, doesn't. Not a thing happens in this movie. Not one thing happens. Not anything worth watching. I want to say I can't understand how this movie's praised so highly on IMDb and in the community and stuff, but then you just went and gave it a 7.5. It started with promise. It started with the kids, and it was cute, and like, oh, I like him, and the mom kind of put together a date for them, and it was interesting, and I was like, okay, so we're going to jump into the future. I know this is like a long distance sort of thing. This is a good way to start it. And it was. I liked the first act. It then cut ahead 12 years and they started reconnecting. And I'm like, okay, here we go. Let's start this movie off. And then it was like 20 to 30 minutes of Skype conversations in like a montage that was the dumbest thing I've ever seen, with awkward small talk. They had zero chemistry.
Whoa!
I thought.
No way.
I just didn't find any and then after a while I'm like, oh my god, they're still milking this Skype thing. Let's go. Next act, please. And then it cuts even further into the future and she's married now, and okay, he's visiting. Wow, okay, let's see if we can get this meat in this sandwich. Nope, vegetarian sandwich.
Get out of here. But like, wasn't it so intriguing, like when he meets the husband?
I would argue the husband and his relationship was the most intriguing part of this movie, and that's not what you want out of a romance where you're supposed to be rooting for the main characters. I didn't care about any three of these characters. That's what I'm getting at.
No.
I thought their reunion when he first got there and they hugged was underwhelming at best. Their conversation... Let me review it.
What did you want, though? Like, it's real life.
No, people can have conversation. They can talk. Their conversations was pregnant pauses and awkward staring and doing everything humanly possible not to say what was on their mind, which isn't human. Humans make mistakes. And I'm not that I'm saying they should have gone the route of cheating, but like that's more human than shutting off all your emotions and not even talking to one another. I feel like even patient viewers, like you said, it was boring. Even the patient viewers must have been thinking, like, get to the point at least a couple times. I don't think this movie ever achieved what it set out to do, making me give a fuck. Oh, man. Okay, hold on. Because cinematography, excellent. It was great. It was very, 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 very well shot. The score, beautiful. Amazing music throughout this movie. And the acting is tough because these characters are good actors. You can tell these actors are good actors, but they had nothing to work with other than looking solemn and not conveying their emotions properly. And that made the acting hard to watch a lot of the time for me.
It's not that they're not conveying their emotions properly. They were told to hide their emotions, and that's acting in itself as well.
Directing did not suck, but if that was a choice, then it was silly. I feel like the director had all this potential to make a beautiful story and then just beelined it and went in the opposite direction.
Oh my god.
And then the ending was it ended with absolutely no resolution at all. And I get it. It's supposed to be this realistic take on this scenario, and maybe it is. Maybe you're right, and maybe it is realistic, but that proves a point that this scenario is not worth making a movie about.
Brody's little hopeless romantic heart was broken. This movie...
No, I felt nothing. I wish my heart got broken. I could chalk this up to the fact that I'm a hopeless romantic and I wanted them to get together. That's how these movies should go, but that's not the case. It's that I didn't care. I didn't care at all. I don't think any of them made the right choices along the way, and they were boring and one-dimensional. I just did not have a good time with this movie, and it felt like it was 3 hours long, and I was losing my mind.
I'm interested to hear what choices you would have made to make it more enjoyable for yourself, because keeping with the theme of making it a real-life scenario.
Some conflict. One scene with conflict in it. There wasn't. Like, I understand the conflict was they can't speak what they want to speak, but maybe the husband gets jealous and beats him up. Maybe he tries to kiss her and she pulls back and they have to have this kind of like argument. There needed to be something more to this. There was nothing.
Okay, I'll give you that.
Nothing.
I'll 100% give you that. The conflict was, they're push and pull, unable to be together. That was the conflict, but there's no outwardly conflict, no. And there should be in a movie. There should be. I'll give you that. I'll give you that. I'll give you that. But it doesn't deserve what you're about to give it. I know it.
Given the fact that it was so technically made, I gave it an extra point, and I'm giving it 3 Skype sessions out of 10.
Wow. Oh no, this hurt you.
It just needed more. This movie had nothing to it, especially being that I didn't care about them. They clearly weren't supposed to be together. If they were, they would. It's a movie. If they were meant to be together, write them together. It doesn't make sense.
Ooh, I don't know. You and I obviously view this very differently. Every time they were together and they were not saying what they wanted to say, I was just like, oh, like that to me was the biggest conflict, and that's what drove the story for me. I was like, oh my god, they deserve it. They need to be together.
I was like, just kiss, make this awkward, make the rest of the movie so awkward.
Not once did I consider this a romantic movie in any way, but it is a love story.
Absence of love story.
No way. You cannot say that there is an absence of love when this guy travels 13 hours to visit the love of his life. You can't say that. There is love in this movie.
No, there was hope. Bye forever, never watching it again. I recommend it to nobody. With that either amazing or bad movie out of the way, you can, you know what, let us know who. I want a tally of everyone who's seen this movie, and I want to compare it and see whose side you're on. You got to pick. It's Team Brody or Team Derek at this point, okay? So all 3 of you who watch this, that's the perfect, there's a tiebreaker. We should pick the next movie. What do you think about that?
Oh, yes, please. Anything to get you to stop complaining about this one.
We're just going to pull out the Heart of Destiny. Can I pull the movie?
Yeah. Sorry.
I've just been fingering this hat for an hour. All right. For next week, we are going to watch, Oscar-nominated Bottoms. I don't even know if it has good reviews. I don't even know what it is.
I watched the trailer, and the trailer's funkin' hilarious, so...
Well, let's take a what's good for the goose. That's a gander. Bottoms. 2 unpopular queer high school students start a fight club to have sex before graduation.
Okay.
I lost track of what I was reading. That was the shortest sentence, and it confused me halfway through so much.
Yeah, the equation didn't work there. How did A plus B equal C there?
I guess because Fight Club will make them cool, but I was like, are they going to accidentally... It brings a whole new meaning to fisting. Come on back next week while we review Bottoms. As always, if you enjoyed this, if you liked the movie, if you didn't like the movie, if you liked this video, if you didn't like this video, like it.
Like it anyway.
And subscribe and follow and share it and just help us out because it means the world to us, and we'll give you a big hug if we ever meet you, and if we don't, we'll give you a high five.